Hey everyone, my name is Nerdy. Today we're doing a little video, something slightly different from me. It's going to be a little talk through of WandaVision. So last week the third episode dropped and we've been given a little bit more information in regards to what's going on. So I've come up with a theory and I'm kind of unsure if anything I'm thinking about will come to fruition. But I feel it was quite fun to think about what might happen, to predict what they're going to go for in the end. And as someone who's read a lot of the comics, I can kind of see where their influence has been taken from and where their potential influences might have come from. So I thought I could do this now and then revisit more towards the end of the series, or maybe even after every episode if they get a bit more in depth and give a bit more information, and we can see how close I was to this idea of where I think it will end up. So first off, I'll just recap a few of the events. So spoiler alert, these will only be up to and including series 3 of WandaVision and a little snippet from the trailer as well. So nothing that you wouldn't have been able to see. So far, we've seen Wanda and Vision settled into a household as a couple. We've seen that Wanda can change things that she doesn't like. Her power set seems to be a lot stronger than it was. But obviously in episode 2, towards the end, the beekeeper comes up and he comes up through the sewers and he arrives and she rewinds the whole lot, saying that no, and she rewinds everything, changes the story, and it becomes about her pregnancy. In episode 3, when the Vision starts to say that he feels something is wrong, although it doesn't rewind in the same way, it kind of like, it's almost like a click, and it just resets it back to where he had started the conversation about everything seeming wrong, and it changed what he was saying. So these two bits alone just kind of show that Wanda can adjust to reality depending on whether she's liking what she's hearing, what she's seeing or not. So we also saw the introduction of S.W.O.R.D. I can't remember seeing much in episode 1 about it, but definitely in episode 2 you start to see the symbol more. You see the helicopter, which is decked out in Tony Stark's colours, the red and the gold. A lot of people did say it was actually Vision's colours, but I don't remember him having that much gold in his uniform, and if they were going to go that route, they probably have gone more for the red, the green aesthetic rather than doing a gold, which wasn't so big in his uniform. So I think that's kind of a link, her mind linking to Tony Stark, what he did perhaps with Endgame. And obviously it does have the sword symbol on it. We have seen a few more sword symbols around. Obviously Geraldine in episode 3 has the necklace which has the sword symbol on it. It is kind of littered around a little bit if you keep your eyes open. Now in the comics, S.W.O.R.D was the Sentient World Observation and Response Department. It basically monitored any sentient world that could potentially hold a threat to Earth and responded accordingly. But according to Kevin Feige and the showrunners for WandaVision, it actually stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. Now, it is only the slightest of changes, but the fact that in the comics S.W.O.R.D was there to watch sentient worlds, and now they've changed that world to weapon, makes me think that they're actually there more as an observer of things like Ultron. If the Iron Man armor went rogue, anything that's basically AI or that could be construed as a weapon. So potentially it might not even be your Ultrons, your Visions, your Iron Man armor. It might also mean, so taken from a slightly different franchise, someone like Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who is basically a warhead and has that power. She would probably be classed as a weapon, so they would be observing her as well. But obviously, as at the moment in the context, I think they were set up to watch things like Ultron, watch out on the Vision, possibly even stuff like Mjolnir, if it could get into the wrong hands. So anything that was a weapon that had sentience, and I know that you're going to say Mjolnir didn't have sentience, but it does in the comics because it chooses its host a lot of the time. It chooses whether they are worthy. So it could be run to, I think they're there for the Vision, which I will get into in a little bit more. very shortly. So we've also seen that Wanda is in a world being watched by S.W.O.R.D. So S.W.O.R.D are obviously in the background. You see them at the end of episode 1. They're watching her on a TV screen. In episode 2, in episode 2 you can also see that they're in the background. In episode 3, it shows the strongest indication when you've got Geraldine with her S.W.O.R.D insignia, and when she gets thrown out of this world, S.W.O.R.D straight away there to capture her or help her or whatever. It does look like they've all got guns trained on her, so it looks like they're there to capture her. But as I've read that she's working for S.W.O.R.D, I think that maybe they were just there to escort her back and make sure that she was okay, more than anything. I think it just made it look a little bit over the top. Obviously things are starting to bleed into a perfect world. The whole Geraldine, the toy helicopter, the things like the radio clicking off saying, "Wanda, who's doing this to you?" is all kind of bleeding almost from the real world, like they're trying to break through to her. Now, I'll get into it a little bit more later with Wanda, but I think that sort of thing is very important, that who is doing this to you, because I don't think anyone is doing it to her, but I will get into that very shortly. So the other things that we have known is obviously Geraldine, who was in episode 2 and 3, is actually Monica Rambeau, who was the second Captain Marvel, or the first female Captain Marvel at the very least. She took over after Marvel was died, the death of Captain Marvel, and she took over. She's also the daughter of the pilot from Captain Marvel, the film, so there is links there to the outside MCU. Now, when she was talking to Wanda said something along the lines of, "I was a twin. His name is Pietro." She says, Didn't Ultron kill Pietro? Now, that alone shows that she has memory of the outside world. So that's another bleeding in of the real world coming in. So when Wanda started questioning her, saying, what did you say? Why did you say that? She was confused. It's like she had no idea what was happening. She started to say, "Help me, I don't know what's going on." Also at the exact same time, the Vision started talking to Agnes and Herb, his neighbours. Herb was acting really weirdly in episode 3. He was cutting through the fence, which was just bizarre. I don't know if it was trying to play it as a comedy, like from that era, but it just seemed a little tiny bit out of character. So obviously Herb started to tell Vision that something was wrong, and Agnes kind of stopped him. So it shows to me that they kind of know something's happening as well, but they seem more in tune with what's happening than Monica does, than Geraldine. So obviously the Vision goes back in the house. Monica's gone, or Geraldine's gone. He asks what happened, and Wanda just says that she left and she won't be coming back. And that's when we see Geraldine stroke Monica getting thrown through an invisible barrier back into the real world, where she is apprehended by S.W.O.R.D. So, looking on everything that we've seen so far in the first 3 episodes, it's my belief, true belief, that this all stems back to Infinity War. So at the end of Infinity War, Wanda got dusted, the Vision's body stayed. Now I double checked because I wasn't 100% certain myself. I thought maybe he got dusted as well, but it would be a bit weird to dust something that's already dead, I know. But it could have been Thanos' last kind of, he's an AI, he might get revived, so I better dust him. But no, he wasn't. So I think that with the kind of problems that Wakanda were having, the Black Panther was gone, T'Challa, he was been dusted himself. I think they're probably in a bit of chaos. They had lost a good chunk of their citizens, and I think S.W.O.R.D somehow managed to get him, possibly under the guise of helping. They have acquired the Vision's body, and they're either attempting to revive him, or they want to reverse engineer the technology to help the world out. So they want to use him almost to create new weapons. I mean, as much as S.W.O.R.D are the good guys in the comics, they're not going to be above they're going to be like Nick Fury and S.W.O.R.D. If he can get the best weapons, he will get the best weapons for his team. So obviously when Hulk snaps the world back and Wanda's come back, she's fought Thanos in the final battle, the first thing she's going to want to do is she's going to want to find the Vision's body. Give him a proper send-off. As Wanda had some training from the Black Widow and how to go undercover, how to find people, I think she started using those skills to hunt down the Vision. She's no doubt found him within a S.W.O.R.D facility. I would say probably underneath Westview, the actual real town of Westview, not this, one in the WandaVision so far. I think underneath Westview is an actual S.W.O.R D facility. I think Wanda would have fought through, and once she found the Vision, realised that he was either already dead, still dead, or that maybe they had stripped him apart a bit. I think that would have made her mind snap. She would have got angry, and I think because she probably thought that maybe S.W.O.R D was still, or Hydra I should say, was still a part of S.W.O.R D, as much as they were a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think while she was trying to rescue him, I think she snapped. Her mind snapped. I think she's pushed her reality warping powers up to like an 11, let's say. And I think she's essentially used the boost in her power level to create a perfect home for herself and Vision. She's put a barrier around Westview, almost kind of, because whenever you've seen, when you see outside of Westview in Series 3, it's like there's nothing there, apart from the sign saying welcome to Westview. Now, I think what's actually happened is she's not just created a barrier around it, she's maybe taken it synced it out of time, or maybe basically made it invisible to the world so no one knows it's there. So, in her kind of mind to live a happy life with Vision, she's essentially trapped Westview within a reality of her own. Now, once she's trapped it, there's two possible things she could have done. Now, she could have trapped a lot of S.W.O.R D agents. Now, obviously, we know Monica Rambeau is a S.W.O.R D agent, so she's clearly trapped at least one. Now, they could all be S.W.O.R D agents. That would be fine. But I actually want to go a slightly different route. I want to say that the S.W.O.R D facility underneath Westview was actually taking superpowered criminals and housing them there to find out how their powers worked. They are the sentient weapon observation. I think they've taken people who have these special abilities, like not just, I'm not talking just like Zemo, who was a master manipulator. I'm talking really big bads of the MCU. I think they're all under there, being, not necessarily being experimented on, but probably finding a way as to why their powers work. I think they've been brainwashed. I actually think Westview is, I believe it's called Pleasant Hill. Please Marvel fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's called Pleasant Hill, and it was an Avengers comic called Standoff. Maria Hill created a perfect town. They were full of criminals. They had all been brainwashed into thinking they were ordinary people living ordinary lives, and I think that is essentially what S.W.O.R.D have done. They've created Westview as a place where their agents and these criminals all kind of live together. So the agents will be looking on them and making sure and trying to rehabilitate them back into the real world, but also at the same time looking at the Omega level power sets, and actually maybe experimenting on them, trying to find out how their powers work. I think because they've got that, I think what's happened is Wanda's kind of found out about that, and in the trailer there's a little bit with the Mind Stone, and Wanda's looking at it, and I think maybe the Mind Stone was there and it's kind of amplified her powers a little bit. It's got into her mind. It's trying to bring forward the part of her that wants to have a happy life, and it's helping her to keep all of these criminals brainwashed within Westview and within the S.W.O.R D facility. I think that is why we see the Beekeeper, as everyone's calling him the Beekeeper, in episode 2. I think he's actually possibly Swarm. Now, if it's true that he's Swarm, it means that he has a connection to, I think it's around about 100 bees make up his body, and he can draw on more bees. But he splits his consciousness between all the bees, and he has one. The queen bee keeps the main portion of his brain, the one that controls and keeps a grip of it all. So if he is Swarm, and obviously it will be the MCU version of Swarm, it's possible that they couldn't brainwash him, which would mean he would be in the facility underground as as a dangerous subject. He would be, top level security around him. But obviously if Wanda's then gone in and trashed the facility, he's going to have found a way out. Now it's possible that he's found a way out. Maybe they were keeping him drugged, so it took him a while to get out. He's got out, he's reconstituted his body, hence why he then wears a S.W.O.R.D uniform, because he would have picked something up that he could grab. Possibly that they come in the beekeeper uniforms, because that would kind of make sense if he is a swarm of bees. But I think he would be the one that they can't manipulate. That is just a theory. That's probably that one. I'm not too confident about that one. I do believe that they're on top of a Westview is on top of a facility, which is why he had to come up the sewers to get out. But I think that it being Swarm is possibly a little bit too left field for the MCU, but they have brought in weird villains before, so don't rule that one out. So I think either way that plays out, what we're seeing is Wanda's snapped. She's unleashed her full powers. A part of her that wants to remain a hero, I think, is trying to show her what's real. I think she's subconsciously getting people, weakening the grip on people so that they're starting to see the truth a bit more. But I think the part of her that wants to be happy with the Vision is kind of overruling all of that. So she's created this perfect world, domed it off, invisibled it off, and she knows that S.W.O.R.D's out there. She's just trying to save the Vision, make sure he doesn't get experimented on. So in her mind, she is the hero. But Marvel doesn't work like that. The MCU doesn't work like that. So they've kept very tight-lipped over what's going on. Even trailers haven't given that much away. So they want to keep you shocked. I mean, the only thing I've actually read about the end episode is it is emotional. So that could mean a few things. The Vision built off again. It could be the return of her brother. It could be so many different things. It could be her mind just completely snapping. We're not sure, but they've taken certain influences. So there's the Scarlet Witch and Vision series they've told us about, as well as the Vision solo series. Now it's very strange, actually, for Kevin Feige, for the MCU, for any of the showrunners to actually give away too much. They don't usually give away much in the movies either. They kind of say, oh, it's based a little bit on this, but then you see other influences. So with them telling us that, I think the influences they're not telling us about, House of M is obviously was always going to be in there. It's about Wanda. She's reshaping reality, so House of M was always going to be an influence. I think Avengers Standoff, with the whole brainwashing of criminals, they're living in an idyllic town, they're trying to rehabilitate them that way. I think that has got to be playing some sort of influence, even if it is just a general premise where she's brainwashed everyone to believe this lie. And I think there'll be no overall villain. Everyone's saying it's Agnes, it's Agatha Harkness. While yes, that could be possible, Herb, if there's a high evolutionary, I think overall there won't be a villain as such. I think it'll be more Wanda is kind of the hero and the villain. I think she believes that S.W.O.R.D are the bad guys, that they are part of Hydra, but they're not. I think it's kind of a misunderstanding, but she's taken to the next level with her reality warping powers, and that is what is going to make it that she is kind of the bad guy but not the bad guy, if that makes sense. But then I could be completely wrong. It could all be a secret invasion type of thing. The Skrulls and S.W.O.R.D are kind of working together from the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, and it could be a secret invasion. It could be the start of that. Bring it in WandaVision that affects the rest of the multiverse, rest of the MCU movies. Who knows? At the end, this is what I truly believe is happening, or at least some play on it. I think, as I say, I think at the end, she and the Vision are going to fight for their idyllic home. They're going to lose. Either her mind is going to snap back to the point where she's going to have to be in a cell, and kind of almost like in the comics at the end, she was kind of having to be sedated by Charles Xavier, or it's going to go the other way where she's literally going to snap even further, and she's just going to open up portals to the multiverse and just bring as much rubbish and crap and bad times on the heroes as much as she can, because I think the Vision will get killed off again, or however you want to go, back to the status quo from after Infinity War. I hope you enjoyed that. If you do have a theory of your own, please leave it down in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you.